All right, welcome everyone. My name is Coach David, and I am here today with Financial Aid Secrets to give you guys a deeper look into the FAFSA. Okay, so it is September 11th, 2024. It is 6 o'clock, and we are going to get started. So thank you guys, everyone, for being here on time. Okay, so let's kind of go into a little bit about kind of like, we'll have a quick welcome. We'll talk about who we are, right? Like we do every time, because we have a lot of people joining our Facebook group. We have a lot of people that are joining our coaching programs for college admission secrets. We want to make sure that they understand who we are and what we are here to do. Okay. So first off, who are we, right? We are Financial Aid Secrets. We are here every week at 6 o'clock, right? That's right now. Wednesdays at 6 o'clock is our time, right? We might switch that later on, but it all depends on when families need or find it easiest to kind of reach out to us, right? The one thing that we ask as part of our program is that you do not stay silent. I do not want families to suffer and kind of like in anxiety about what college is going to cost. Instead, reach out to us. If you're one of our coaching families, reach out to us in Discord. If you're one of our Facebook families, reach out to us, in Facebook Messenger or through a comment so that we can know to reach out to you so we can help you. Okay. Coach Joanna is in the Facebook at all times, making sure that things are happening. So she probably has responded to one of your kind of comments if you're trying to come to one of our events, right? Reach out to her, say, hey, I want to book a call, right? I want to book a call with Coach David so we can talk about the financial aid situation. Okay. So just stay engaged with us, and hopefully that will allow you to get all the information that you need in order to kind of slay the financial aid dragon. Okay. Now, we have been doing this for the past 15 years. Again, my goal in all of this is to make sure that families can go to college without having to kind of like, break the bank, without having to use all of the kind of parents' 401k and retirement funds, right? I want to make college a little bit more affordable for everybody. Okay. We've saved families millions of dollars, right? I want to do that for you too, but I can't do that if I never talk to you. So again, back to the main point on the last slide, I need to make sure that we talk. Okay. So again, I will have the link to book a consultation. Coach Joanna is in the Facebook group. I'm also in the Discord. There's a financial aid support channel in there. So if you want to book a call, please just reach out. It's free. We never charge anything for our consultations. We just want to give you the information. And then if our program works for you, we'll go ahead and let you know about it. If it doesn't work for you, at least I can send you off with some tips and tricks. Okay. So as I have been doing, every time there is something going on, I am doing financial aid news again. And so let me tell you about the news, right? And the reason that I have this face here is because this is how I feel. Okay. Last year, we had that whole debacle with financial aid. This next year, right, we thought, okay, everything's going to be okay, right? They're going to figure their stuff out. We're going to be able to start on time, get our financial aid awards back on time. Unfortunately, that is not the case, right? So last year was chaos. This year is going to be a little bit more chaos. It is delayed again. For those that have not heard, financial aid has been delayed from October 1st opening to a December 1st opening. Okay. So I'm going to keep everyone updated, right, as much as I can, right? Every week we're going to go on, and I'll make sure to kind of keep you guys posted about what's going on. So if you're in our Discord, obviously you guys have access to all of our replays, right? If you're in Facebook, make sure to ask for those replays or watch out for posts that give some information about the delays that are happening this year. Okay. Now, why everyone is here today. We're here about the FAFSA, okay? So before we go into kind of FAFSA and kind of the different forms, one of the things I did want to do was talk about the rumors that surround financial aid that harm a lot of families, okay? So one of the rumors that we always hear is, you know what, we don't qualify for the FAFSA. I don't even know what that means, okay? The FAFSA is not something that you qualify for. It's just a form that has to get filled out. Just like how you have to fill out a form in order to get into a college, you need to fill out the FAFSA in order to be eligible for any type of aid, right? There are things that you can qualify for directly, like from the FAFSA, like the Pell Grant, right? Or different loans, right? But usually that's for families that are lower on the kind of income spectrum, right? Everything else will be coming from sources that are outside of the federal government, right? But in order to get aid, you need to turn in this form, okay? You can think of FAFSA like a sandwich. It's the bread that holds everything together, right? What fillings you get depends on where you're applying to college and how generous they are that year, Okay, so if you want slices of ham, turkey, salami, lettuce, onions, tomatoes, if you want all of those things, that's what we fill it with. The FAFSA is just that initial form that holds everything together. Okay. I do see that we have questions, right? And so we will get to those in a bit. Okay. I'll get to those kind of at the end, just so I can make sure that we make it through our kind of like 50 slides we have today. Okay. So just to kind of give you an overview of the process, right? The process looks like this. Okay. In a normal year, right? The things that you're gonna have to do are possibly or for sure the FAFSA, possibly the CSS profile, possibly the IDOC system. There will be school-specific forms, verification forms, and additional information forms, right? But today, like I said, we're going to focus just on the FAFSA, okay? So, like I said before, the FAFSA is a gateway form. To get aid at any type of college and to get any type of aid, you need to turn it into your state schools, private schools, literally any university or college in the United States, unless it's a very specific for-profit like school that does not accept the FAFSA. Generally, the schools that you're thinking about, like your state schools, private schools, they will all accept the FAFSA, and you do need to turn it in to get any type of aid. Again, let me reiterate this point, because a lot of people are like, oh, we're not going to get anything from FAFSA anyway. But, you know, that's kind of like the form that has to be there. Okay. Now, again, I said should, right? But again, it isn't, right? The open date was supposed to be for the class of 2025, October 1st. We know that it is not. For the class of 2026, I'm not going to make any predictions, because I think that them trying to figure out how to fix one website is going to take them decades. So I hope that it's open by October 1st, but I am not 100% sure for the class of 2026, right? Now, the website that you should be on is studentaid.gov. There are a lot of things. If you type in FAFSA, there's going to be a lot of different websites that pop up that redirect you here or redirect you here. Make sure you're on the right website. It is studentaid.gov. Okay. Now, before we get into the actual form, which I have actually gone into my own account to take screenshots of, right? I wanted to kind of have a quick word from our sponsors. And our sponsor is College Admission Secrets. Okay. For the class of 2025, I know that there's a lot of students out there, because we've been talking to a lot of 2025 families where it's like, my kid hasn't started anything yet. They don't know what to do for their essays. They don't know how to kind of write this essay, right? If that is your situation, you should reach out to us so that we can talk to you, okay? If your student doesn't have any direction, or if they're procrastinating, let me tell you where our students are right now. Our students have mostly 95% of the way gotten done with their PIQs. They've gotten done with their Common App personal statement, okay? They have also, a lot of them that are applying early are getting close to finishing their early action or early decision essays. And we are almost ready to go ahead and review those for them so that they can send them off, okay? You might be thinking, whoa, that's really fast, right? The early action, early decision is not until November 1st, right? But for us in our program, we have students finish early, okay? October 1st is our deadline for early applications. November 1st is our deadline for UCs and CSUs. And for every other school a student is applying to, the deadline is December 1st, right? So if you want your student to get done with your essays, we have an essay submission portal. You turn it in, our coaches look over them, give you the feedback and a personalized video, right? If that is something that you are looking for, please text essay to 415-938-8721. Okay. All right. So let's move back to our training now, right? So before we get into the actual form, again, I know I'm kind of like dragging this out, but I want to make sure that you understand exactly what you need and what they ask so that you can have the proper things prepared. Okay. So the question is, what do you need? These are the things that you will generally need. You will need your appropriate year tax return, okay? So I'm going to talk about it for the class of 2025, 26, 27. This is the kind of procedure that it has been, and I don't see it changing anytime soon, okay? So the process is that if your student is graduating in 2025, the tax return that you will be using is your 2023 tax return, okay? So a lot of families are going to be like, well, wait, why wouldn't we use the last year's tax for 2024? Well, you have to remember the 2024 tax year is not even done yet. And financial aid actually needs to happen right now before the end of the year. So you're not going to have your taxes done, unfortunately. Okay. So they use the tax year that you should have done. Now, this brings up another issue. There are a lot of parents in here, and I see some of you guys, right, that I've talked to before, that don't have their taxes done. It's okay. You got lucky this year. Okay. And how you got lucky this year is because, well, the FAFSA is not opening until December 1st. So even if you decide to finish your taxes by October 15th, you're going to be okay this year. But for class of 2026 students, okay, and families, if you are applying for financial aid, right, and you are waiting to do your 2024 tax returns, you cannot wait this long because next year, hopefully, it opens October 1st. Okay. You also need your social security number, right? You need an email that you regularly check, and you need a phone number that is actually a number that you use. Okay. There's been some problems with like internet phone numbers, Google Voice numbers. I know you don't want to get a bunch of texts, but they don't really send you anything anyway. So just make sure it is a phone number that you actually use. These are the things that you need in order to make sure that you sign up for your account. Okay. Now, what do they ask about? These are all the different categories of things that they ask about. Okay. They ask about your income, tax returns, child support, alimony, balance of your cash, savings, checkings, right? Your business taxes, untaxed income, net worth of investment, business, and farms. Okay. So these are kind of just the general categories of what they look at. Now, let's get straight into the form. Okay. So getting into this form, right? I kind of use mine, right? So even though I'm not a student, I acted like I was. Maybe I'm going back for my PhD. Okay. So it says, welcome, David. Like, I'm starting a new FAFSA. Are you a student or your parent? Right. For the purposes of this exercise today, I decided to go down the student route. Okay. So I'm a student. Okay. They will ask about personal information. Okay. So I didn't put it on here because obviously I don't want my personal information out there, right? But they're going to ask you about, your address, right? Mailing address. They're going to ask about, your birthday, all those different things. Now, the first important part of the puzzle, right, comes in this section where they ask the student's state of legal residence. A lot of students are tripped up by this answer, right? But I'm not exactly sure why. Now, if you're a family that has moved around often, this might kind of trip up your student, right? Now, for me, I live in California, right? I was born here. I was raised here. I went to college here, right? I left for a few years because I worked overseas, right? But then I came back to California, right? So the date the student became a legal resident of California, for me at least, is going to be what the year and month that I was born. Okay, so if you are a California born and raised student, the month and year that you became a legal resident of California is the month and year that you were born. The reason why this is important is that for purposes of legal residence, they will check the FAFSA to see that you're a California resident for the California state schools. Okay, if you're a resident of a different state like Texas, obviously you want to show that you are a Texas resident. If you are a, Alabama resident, you want to make sure that they show that so that you can get the most benefits at your state schools. Okay. Now, the next part that has changed very drastically versus previous years is that you need to provide consent for the federal government, right, to go into your tax returns and basically look things over for the purposes of financial aid. Okay. If you do not consent to this, you will not get anything, unfortunately, right? I know a lot of people out there are like, well, this and that, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, there's no give anymore. There's no like, oh, well, I don't want to do it. Well, then, okay, well, you're going to pay full price for college. Okay. So that's just kind of the truth of the matter in the modern day. Okay. It will also ask about personal circumstances. So let's kind of see what it asks, right? So it's asked about the student's current marital status, right? Now, it's not just because I'm an older male that they ask me what my marital status is. If your student is 17 years old, they will also ask this question, okay? So just make sure to mark the right one, right? They also ask about what your career plans are, like your college plans, like what year you're going to be, right? Even if your student has a bunch of transfer credits and they're going to have sophomore or junior standing as they join college, that doesn't matter. Okay, they are a first-year freshman student. If this is their first time going to a 4-year university, they will be a first-year student. Okay, and this bottom question, right? When the student begins the 2025 4 or 5 school year, will they already have their first bachelor's degree? Right now, for most high school students, the answer is going to be no. Right? Who knows? There might be students out there that have already finished one online degree, and then they might be moving on to their second bachelor's. Okay, so again, depends on the situation. Okay. They'll also ask about personal circumstances, right? If any of these apply to you, you can definitely click them, right? None of them applied to me, so I moved on, right? They also talk about kind of like, oh, were you at risk of being homeless, or were you homeless on or after this time, right? I wasn't, right? So move on, right? Again, now here, right? They also ask about the student's gender, right? So you have 3 options, 4 options, right? Male, female, non-binary, and prefer not to know, right? Before, there was actually a question that popped up if you chose male, okay? There was a question about selective service. That has been removed starting last year, right? So in order to be eligible for financial aid in the past, you needed to be and you were a male that was going to be over the age of 18 at some point, right? They would ask if you're going to be if you want to be signed up for selective service. They have now taken that out. Okay, for those that don't know what selective service is, it's the military draft. Okay, so just something there. They do ask about your race and ethnicity. The reason why they ask this is for their own survey purposes. It has nothing to do with how much money you're going to get. Okay, so they'll ask, if you're of Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin. They'll also ask about your race, right? So obviously there's more categories. I couldn't cut all of them in, so there are more categories afterwards. Okay, they'll ask about student citizenship status. Okay, so this is another place where there's a lot of rumors around it. Okay, so for the purposes of financial aid, I will tell you exactly what the student needs to have, what the parent needs to have. Okay, so the student needs to be an eligible non-citizen, right, or higher, right? So for instance, right, they might be a green card holder, right? They might be a US citizen, okay? They need to be one of those two in order to get financial aid. But there are also other categories here where it says neither US citizen nor eligible non-citizen, right? This might refer to you if you are technically like in the process of being a DACA recipient, right? A deferred action recipient, okay? So if that applies to you and you have questions about that, please leave something in the Q&A or in the chat. We can talk about it more. But generally, the students that will be eligible are green card holders and US citizens or nationals. Now, the question also comes up then, okay, well, what if the parents are not, right, US citizens or green card holders? Well, here's the good news. The FAFSA doesn't care, and neither do I, right? This is all about the student. You have to remember, your kid going to college, their college applications, their financial applications, it's about the student, not about the family, not about the parents. It's all about the student. So as long as the student is, the parents kind of like status does not matter. Okay. Now they do ask about parent education status, right? Again, here, neither parent, one or both parents completed, right? Or don't know, right? And then they will ask your high school completion status, right? So if you're just going through high school in a normal fashion, you will have your high school diploma. If you dropped out of high school and you took a GED or another state recognized equivalent test, that's fine too, right? And then if you were homeschooled, okay, if you're homeschooled, you do know that you are homeschooled, right? So you can go ahead and click homeschooled here, okay? They ask about kind of any like family benefits that you got, whether it's Medicaid, right? Free housing, free lunch, so on and so forth. Now, I know that there is a bunch of people out there. It's like, oh, you know what? That COVID free lunch thing is still happening right now. So can I click for the free or reduced price school lunch? Okay. So here's what has been happening. I've had a bunch of people ask me that question and I told them not to do it, right? They did it on their own, of their own accord, right? But later on, it kind of came back to bite them a little bit. And here's why it came back to bite them, right? So when they were turning in other forms like the CSS profile, which has a fee or this or that, so on and so forth, they clicked that button on there as well, right? And then the school received it and it's like, oh, okay, this student is a low-income student, right? when they finally got the real, when they got all the information that they actually needed after they kind of went through the preliminary rounds, right? They realized that this family was not low income, and that kind of hurt them. Now, how they hurt them, I will talk about at a different time, right? But if you in a normal year, not COVID years, would not get free or reduced lunch, do not click this button here. Okay. They will also ask about your tax filing status. Now, obviously, I am filing my taxes, but I'm going to act like a 17-year-old kid, right? So I click no, right? If your student does have a tax return, you'll obviously click yes, okay? But there are kind of different kind of things that you should think about, right? Your student might have filed a tax return, but they were underneath the actual like tax filing limits, right? Or they might have made more than the tax filing limits. So whatever the situation is, we do need to present it in the correct way. Okay. They will also ask about the number of students in college. Why they ask, I have no idea, because 2 or 3 weeks ago, I went over a training that literally said they don't care how many students you have in college anymore, right? And they don't. I don't know why they still have this question. Okay. So it doesn't matter if there's one kid in college or there's 25 kids in college at the same time, right? The price is going to be the same, right? For schools that only accept the FAFSA. Okay. They will also ask you where you're applying to school. Now, this is a place that kind of like messes a lot of people up. The reason is because they only allow you to put on 20 schools at a time, right? And you might be thinking, oh my God, 20 schools? That's actually a lot. But if you actually think about it, it's not really that many, right? Let's say that you're in California, you're applying to the UCs. There are 9 UC campuses. A lot of students apply across the board to 8 or 9 different schools in the UC system. They might also apply to 3, 4, 5 schools in the CSU system. So if we take the larger numbers, 9 and 5, that's already 14 schools. And then in addition to that, there's an average amount of kind of private schools or out-of-state public schools that a student is applying to is anywhere between 8 and 12. So if you actually take the larger number again, we have 14 plus we have 12, right? We have 26. Okay. Our student that applied to the most schools last year applied to 43 schools. So we actually had to do the FAFSA form for him 3 separate times. The first 20, the second 20, and then the final 3. Okay. Now, the reason I bring this up is exactly for that reason. If you have more than 20 schools, you have to do the FAFSA more than once, and you need to plan it out in the correct way so that you don't miss any deadlines. Okay. So the reason I bring this up is, let's say you put in your first 20, right? You send it off, right? It takes some time to process and get fully submitted, right? Then after it is completely submitted, you need to go back in, make a correction, and then take out those schools, add in the new schools that you want, and then resubmit it. But if you actually think about the timelines that they give us for how long it takes for them to process the forms, it could take anywhere between 7 to 14 days. Okay. If that's the case, if you're turning if you have a school that's due on November 1st and you decide that, oh, I'm going to turn in another 20 schools first, and then I'm going to turn in college X that's due on November 1st after that, right? But you only have 4 days left. There's a high likelihood that you're not going to be able to turn it in by the deadline. Okay. As I have said over and over again, the deadline here is very important. Okay. If you miss the deadline, technically you're disqualified. Are colleges a little bit lenient? Yes, but do you really want to test it? Okay. The answer is probably no, right? You do not want to test it. You want to try to get in things as quick as possible. Okay. So that's basically the form. The next slide is to basically kind of get you to sign the form and then turn it in. Okay. But just like I was talking about the timeline for this year, I do need you to understand the general timeline for your student. Okay. So I'm taking the class of 2025 as an example because obviously they're getting ready to apply right now. Okay. So technically speaking, right, the original date to file your taxes is April 15th, right? 2024. That's when we file our 2023 taxes. It should have gotten done, right? Your senior starts school in August, right? By December 2024, your college applications and your financial aid applications, right? They should be all completed. And then the following April, that is when we're going to get the rest of our decisions and also our financial aid packages. Okay. So I do want to make sure that you keep that in mind. Okay. So there's like obviously like the general timeline is something I want you to understand. I also want you to understand that financial aid is always done 1 year before the student is heading into that year. Okay. So looking at this kind of timeline that we have here, right? We are basically getting things done in the fall of the student's senior year for their first year of college, which starts the following fall, which means that for our students that are renewing with us right now, they are getting ready to turn in their second year of financial aid for their second year in their first year of college. Okay. So everything is 1 year before. Okay. So keep that in mind. Okay. Again, I'm here because I want to make sure that people are prepared, right? They learn the strategies, they learn the forms that are out there so that the mistakes are kept to a minimum, right? I want to make sure that you guys get all the answers that you want. So one of the things that I talked about way at the beginning of our presentation is that I want you guys to sign up for a consultation. It's free. I don't charge you anything. I don't make anything off of it, right? All I do is try to give you the information that you need, help your family understand what you could get, right? And then if it's something that interests you, I'll tell you about our program. Okay. So if you are interested, I'm putting the link in right now. Go ahead and sign up for a consultation there, right? But before you do, I want you to see some of the success stories that we've had with our families. Okay. So I have a parent, right, that came to me. They were like, you know what? I can't pay $95,000 a year for USC. Should my kid apply? And I'm like, yeah, go ahead and apply. I think I can do something for you, right? This is what happened, right? They have assets above $1 million, right? Their family home is $1.3 million, right? That is the estimated value, right? The estimator said they might get $10,000 a year. I got them $60,000. They're going to USC paying less than they would to go to a UC school. Okay. I have another family. Parents' income's even higher, 350,000, right? Their kid goes to Carnegie Mellon now, right? He's in his second year, right? They said that the calculator they used online and this and that said they would get nothing, right? I got them $50,000 a year. They're actually going to Carnegie Mellon for about $33,000 a year. That's paying everything, not just tuition. That is what is left over after they take the $50,000 out. Okay, $33,000 a year. That's less than you would pay at a CSU. Okay, so these are some real results that we've had, right? Again, I want to make sure that I can do it for everybody, right? So if you are interested in signing up for a consultation, I have put the link in the chat here. Again, once Zoom closes down, the link will disappear. And if you are also interested in our college essay service, I want you to text essay to 415-938-8721. Okay. All right. And so with that, I do want to move over into Q&A. I already have some questions here in the Q&A. If you want to go ahead and throw your question into the chat or into the Q&A, do that so I can make sure to answer your question. Okay. But I will start with the ones that I already have here. Okay. So it says here, this family did not get any grants or financial aid. Is there any benefit to take a student unsubsidized loan? So there are two types of loans that are usually offered to students. One is an unsubsidized loan and one is a subsidized loan. Okay. Now you might be asking like, well, what are they subsidizing and what are they not subsidizing, right? And what the government does for a subsidized loan is that they actually subsidize the payment for the interest. Okay. So that means that your student is basically getting that money at 0% interest until they graduate, right? So that's obviously a positive thing. A 0% loan on anything is basically you making money, because if you think about inflation and like all these different things that are happening, the cost of goods going up, well, if it's 0%, then you're doing pretty well, right? You're actually making money on it. Okay. Now, the question becomes for an unsubsidized loan. Realistically, the unsubsidized loan is anywhere between like $3,000 and $5,000. Okay. Is it worth it? Maybe, right? Depends on what interest rate you can get somewhere else, right? So the unsubsidized student loan for students, I believe the interest rate is at 6.53%. Okay. So that's 6.53% on, I don't know, let's just call it $3,000, right? So that's like $180, roughly speaking, right? But the next year you take it, right, or the next year that you're in school, right, that's gonna the interest is gonna like be capitalized on top of your original loan amount. So now you're paying 6.53% on $3,180, which is whatever number it is, right? And then the next year you're paying 6.53% on $3,180 plus the interest on the next year. So the question is, do you want to let it balloon like that or not? But there are ways to have it not balloon, which is like, I mean, like just like with any other traditional loan, go ahead and, pay, make interest payments while you're in school. There's different ways to make sure that it doesn't get out of control, right? But generally speaking, if you can find a better interest rate, then it doesn't make sense to take it from the government, right? The one good thing about the government is that they have different repayment plans, right? If you take a private loan, you might not have those same repayment plans, right? But if you get a student loan from a different private lender, then they do follow the same rules as the federal loans, okay? We have another question here, right? And it says, what happens to divorced parents? Do we both submit tax returns? No, right? So if you are in a situation where you and your spouse have separated and plan to get a divorce or are divorced or whatever the situation is, it's a little bit more of a complicated situation. So that is something that I would suggest that people sign up for a consultation so we can talk about it a little bit more in depth, right? But only one parent will be turning in information if the parents are divorced. Okay. And then we have another question here. It says, "Hi, I tried to look up financial aid secrets on Facebook to watch a replay, but couldn't find your Facebook page. Can you share a link or what is the name of the page?" It's actually just financial aid secrets. It should be very findable. But I will go ahead and share a link so that you guys can find it as well. So this is the link to our Facebook group if you have not joined, okay? And then we have another question in the Q&A, and it says, just to clarify, you apply for the FAFSA every year you are in college in the fall. That is correct, okay? So just like your tax returns, the financial aid process is something that needs to happen year after year, okay? Your eligibility runs up to 5 years. After 5 years, hopefully our students aren't in college for 5 years, right? I know there's some students that have that are in special programs or this or that, but generally we hope that our students can graduate in 4 years, but you have 5 years of eligibility. After that, it doesn't matter what your parents' income is, it will be full price, okay? All right, we have another question here, and it says, how is this form different if if you're filling it out as the parent? So the parent side, because usually the parents have a tax return, is going to be a lot more in-depth, okay? They're going to ask about, your untaxed income. They're going to ask about your wages. They're going to ask about any passive income. They're going to ask about any businesses you have, so on and so forth. So it's going to be a lot more complicated. In the time that I have, I didn't have time to go through that, but maybe on another date, we can go through the parent side as well. Okay. We have another question that says, how can I get the recording, please? I came in late. So there are two options, right? If you're one of our coaching families, it will be posted in our YouTube channel, right? If you are one of our Facebook group people, right, please go ahead and reach out to us. I'm going to make a post about this, about kind of going through the FAFSA. Just reply there, and then Coach Joanna will make sure that she reaches out to you to give you that link when it is ready, okay? It takes us about 24 to 48 hours to render the things, make it a little pretty, and do all those things. So just give us a little time, but we will get it to you, okay? All right, we have another question here, and it says, does FAFSA also apply to Medi-Cal or any type of, or medical, sorry, I read that so wrong. Medi-Cal or any other type of grad school? Yes, you do fill it out, but the reason why you fill out the FAFSA for medical school or for grad school is so that you can get loans, right? Now, I want kind of parents to kind of like understand this, right? Once your kid has graduated from college, they shouldn't rely on you for financial things, right? If your student's going off to medical school, don't be burdened by the fact that you need to pay $500,000 for medical school. Your student is old enough to take care of those things now, and they are according to the FAFSA. So realistically speaking, if a student is going to medical school and it costs $125,000, $130,000 a year to go to medical school, they can get loans in that amount. Now, that's literally right at a $250,000, right? But the government will provide that for you, right? If you are a student going to medical or grad school. Okay, as long as you haven't really abused the system and like tried to over get money for it, then you should be fine. Okay, but there are students that have like, you know, they went to a master's program, they dropped out, and then they went to like a PhD program, they dropped out, and then they went to medical school and they're trying to get loans for medical school, and then they run into a problem, right? I have seen that happen. Okay. Um, so we have another question. Is on the calendar to schedule a consultation, there are two calendars, purple or green. What is the difference? One is purple and one is green. That is it. There's no difference. It takes you to the same calendar. I'm not sure why my calendar does that, but either one, purple or green, just choose whatever color that you like. Okay. All right. I will do last call for questions because I haven't really seen anything come in. Okay. So last call for questions. Again, anything that you guys have questions about that we went over or about financial aid in general, I can answer for you. Okay. And if you are looking for more help on the kind of like coaching side, right, of college admissions, making sure that your students making it to the schools they want, you can also ask questions about that. And I can provide you some links about that as well. So you can talk to one of our advisors about our coaching program. So we have a question that says, are you coming to CAI Ontario? So yes, I will be flying in that morning to CAI Ontario. So if any of the families here are coming to the Ontario location for the college application intensive, you can't ask any questions about the college application intensive because we are completely sold out, right? I do not have any space, okay, for students to come. The college application intensive, for those that are class of 2026, it is a weekend event where we help your student kind of jumpstart themselves into the application process and the essays. Okay. We have some families saying hi, hello, how are you guys doing? Right. All right. I don't see any additional questions. So again, oh, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so okay, so there was a hi David, and then it was like, oh, the question was after. So if you are one of our clients, right, I'm going over like the FAFSA, I go over the CSS, I go over this, I go over that. You don't need to worry about any of that. That's all taken care of for you. Okay. But if you're kind of gonna try to kind of do this on your own, those are all things that you're gonna have to fill out. Okay. And then final question, and then we'll kind of end off here. And it says, if student income is less than standard deduction, should they file taxes on their own? No, they shouldn't. There's no reason for them to. Okay. So we'll do that. Okay. And then we have a question here. If you can reach out to me in the Discord, I'm not exactly sure which meetup you're talking about. You can go ahead and leave me a message there and I'll get back to you there. Okay. But it was great spending a little time with you guys here today. If you guys do have questions about the financial aid process, please reach out to me so that I can answer some of your questions and kind of, you know, make sure that you are not worried about it too much. Okay. But we will be back here next week, right? For those that are going to be in Ontario, I will see you in Ontario. And hopefully it's not too hot. I used to go to college in that area. I went to Claremont colleges. So Ontario was right down the street. So I'm probably going to stop by my old school, see how it's changed as well. Okay. So I will talk to you guys again soon. Reach out to us in the consultations and I will see you guys again. Bye-bye.